So anyway, good evening, everybody. I really do appreciate everybody attending. A couple of just administrative things. We are filming this for Channel 44, but it is also live streaming. So you are out to the world. When we get to the Q&A session, we have 3 microphones there in the middle and over there. So if you have a question, if you could come up, that would actually allow the cameras to pick up any question you might have. But I want to start by, first of all, thanking the many of you that have reached out to me in the last several days. And I really do appreciate the nice emails. I appreciate the comments you've made, the physical contact made to say it in person. Even Terry, who has never spent a dime here at Sugarbush, reached out to thank me for everything that's wonderful here. And now he's in the front row, but Terry, yes, you get free hot chocolate all winter. And that's because you bring your own friggin' hot chocolate every day. I am a bum, I know. But I do really appreciate all the kind words. I'll tell you that the most difficult conversation I know I was going to have was with my grandchildren. And a few years ago, my grandson, Cole, had his mother get a call from school. And the school said, Mrs. DeSabato, your son is doing great in school, but he tends to exaggerate a bit. And she said, what do you mean he tends to exaggerate? Well, he said, well, we asked everybody what they did over Christmas vacation. He came back, he said, I went to my daddy's mountain, and we skied. And she said, that's nice. Does he own a house up there? He said, no, he owns the mountain. He said, no, come on, Cole, you don't exaggerate. I know you like to ski, but your daddy really doesn't own a mountain. He said, well, yes, he does. So she called in the mother, and the mother said, well, I'm afraid to tell you, he actually does own a mountain. But that's the type of, conversation, I was hesitating to have because I know how passionate they feel about this. But I did get a call from my eldest daughter, Heather, and she said that Vivian has had a meltdown. So my little Viv, 8-year-old, who pond skims already, was having a meltdown. What do you mean? What do you mean? I can't ski with him anymore. Everything's going to change. I said, calm down, Vivian, calm down. Nothing's going to change, And she said, well, why are you selling it? I said, because my kids don't know how to run it. And she said, well, I'll run it one day. He said, well, he's selling us all the right things. And she said, well, maybe you can buy it back when I grow up. So Rusty did that a couple of times. He'll tell you about that. But anyway, those are my most difficult conversations I've had. But I do want to just mention a couple of things before we turn it over to the folks in our teammates from Altera Mountain Company to explain more about Altera and what they think and their vision for us and how we're going to operate. But I think the most responsible thing an owner or CEO can do, if they're responsible, is to make sure that their organization is sustainable for the future. And equally importantly, they have the right next leadership. And having left a company where that didn't happen, I actually felt very importantly that had to happen here, at Sugarbush when it was time for me to move on. 18 years ago, I got a call from Tom McHugh, who's here in the audience tonight. And he said, I think that Les may be ready to sell Sugarbush. Would you have an interest in buying it? Well, he didn't actually know that a few years earlier than that, Siggy Grotendorfer had called me. He said, I have a fellow named Bob Shad. I need another financial partner. Would you be interested in buying Sugarbush? And we actually looked at that pretty seriously. But ASC bought it instead, which actually was very fortunate because they put the $20 million into it. We didn't have to. So the call came in, and we had actually looked at the numbers before. And he said, and by the way, I have somebody by the name of Bob Backlund, who's the general manager of Mad River Glen, who would be willing to come in and be a partner and actually run the operation. So that actually sounded pretty good. And another financial partner, Joe Reamer, and I decided that we would provide the equity capital, that we would try to acquire the resort, and at the end of the day, we did. And so that was 18 years ago. And Tom and Bob, have moved on to other things, and I've stayed around and become the chief operating officer since then. But really, it was Tom and Bob who really caused the idea of buying Sugarbush to come. So, Tom and Bob, I'm really glad you're here tonight and really appreciative for everything you've done and the loyalty you've shown over the years. But 18 years ago, we did acquire a company that was not in good shape. It was failing. Les had the right idea about the multi-resort ticket, but he just implemented it in a bad way and had some bad fortune. And frankly, I don't think respected the community in the way that it should be respected. But things have changed. and it caused our thinking to change. We're proud now that we are sustainable. We had a record year last year. We didn't have to sell. So this is our choice out of strength and not our choice out of weakness. Why the decision to sell? You know, clearly, as some of you saw in my letter, I think there are several trends happening which really caused this decision now. The consolidation that's happening is really a sea change in the industry. The tipping point, in my thinking, was the acquisition of Peaks by Vail. They now own 37 different resorts. Here in Vermont, they own Snow, Okemo, Mount Snow. Across the border in New Hampshire, they own Sunapee, Wildcat, Attitash, Crotched Mountain. That's a big person surrounding you. Altera owns Stratton here in Vermont. Powder Corporation, which a lot of people don't talk as much about, but they own Copper, they own Eldora, and they own Killington here. The same family owns Snowbird. So you really have a third big consolidator. And then you have Boyne Mountain, which started in Michigan, but they own Big Sky in Montana, and here in the Northeast own Sugarloaf, Sunday River, and Loon. In the new book that Chris Diamond just put out called Ski 2020, he says that in his belief, there are only, or at the time of the writing, were only 3 independent resorts with more than 250,000 skier visits left in the Northeast. Us, he named Waterville Valley, and he named, I believe, Jay Peak. I'm not sure they're at 250,000, but that's it. So in our mind, looking out on the horizon, we had a great relationship partnering with Icon last year on the pass, where people were able to ski here 7 or 5 days. But it became very apparent to us that remaining totally independent without being owned or partnering was going to make it increasingly difficult to be viable, sustainable over the long run. Short run, it might be fine, but I think the long run, there'd be vulnerability for us, for you in the community, and for all of our employees. So consolidation was the first thing. Secondly is the impact of climate change. And David now refers to it, I think appropriately, as a climate crisis. Things are changing. They are happening. You know, we're seeing it, we're experiencing it. I do not believe that we're going out of the ski business in my lifetime, but I do believe we're going to be changed and faced with a different environment. We're going to have to be ready, prepared, so that our snowmaking capacity is greater than it is today. We've done a lot. We've improved it tremendously. We can put out almost 4,000 gallons a minute on this mountain now, thanks to our low-energy equipment. But if we're going to have shorter windows of opportunity to really make snow, if we're going to be able to recover quicker from those events that we see, we're going to have to make additional capital investments and significant capital investments. And as I looked at our 5 and our 10-year capital plan, it was daunting. So could we do it on our own? Maybe. We might have to attain more leverage as well as our operating profits. But in my view, being part of a stronger organization is going to allow that to happen better and maybe more rapidly. It's awfully good insurance to have that type of balance sheet behind us. And thirdly, and not everyone likes me saying this, but I will say it because it's the truth, doing business in Vermont is expensive. It is a disadvantage compared to other states. And we have higher taxes, we have higher fees, we have tougher regulation, we have a very challenging labor market. But that's the given reality, okay? We accept that. That's what it is. There's so many other wonderful things about Vermont, but that's the given reality. By being part of an organization like Altera, there are ways of offsetting other costs to offset that. We can be part of larger purchasing power. So if we buy a groomer, we have very little negotiating power. If Altera Mountain Company buys 12 or 13, you have a different set of equations. Our employees can be part of a larger healthcare plan, better, perhaps at lower premiums. Workers' comp is tough in the state. There are opportunities to have abilities to actually have a lower premium on that as well. So those were the 3 factors. It's consolidation, it's climate change, and it's cost of business that said to me we're going to be far more sustainable and better by being part of Altera Mountain Company than just going on our own over the long term. So why now? The other question? Part of it I answered, but the other question is, you never want to sell on the downturn. You want to sell when things are going right, so you're making the best possible deal for everybody involved. So the leverage really isn't taken away, and you're not forced into a marriage. You want to marry when there's love and there's strength. Also, and I think terribly importantly, is you want to make sure that the right partner is available. 2 years from now, who knows? Altera might not be interested in us. They may have their portfolio filled. So having that partner available today was an important part of the decision now to sell. So why Altera? Well, you're going to hear about them, but their goal is to create a family of iconic destinations. Not to have homogenized companies, but to have a group of companies, and they'll explain that more, that retain their individual character and culture. When we started our discussions, before I even looked at numbers or talked numbers, I asked if I could just forward them about 17 questions. And they were about the mission, about the employees, about our guests. And I wanted to know if those questions really fit our strategy before we even started serious discussions. I asked them if our mission is going to continue providing and cultivating a spirit of lifelong adventure and camaraderie. And the answer, by the way, they gave this to me in writing, which I didn't ask for. The answer to that was yes. I asked if our values, our 7 values of placing the interests of the guests first, having the commitment to the community, creating a climate of respect, acting with integrity, focusing on sustainability and safety, and teamwork, would be maintained. The answer was yes. So we went through those questions. I was comforted that they had the guest focus, and I was comforted that they had the employee focus as well. And that is actually then gave us the comfort to take the next step. Also importantly, they did a lot of due diligence on us, but we did a lot of due diligence on them as well. The Crown family is a major owner of Altera. The majority owner is KSL, which we'll go into a little more detail. But the Crown family, importantly to me, is a family that's owned Aspen for decades. They've run Aspen really well. They're a skier family. They're smart business people. And they're bringing a family culture, in my opinion, to Alterra Mountain Company, which is going to be something that I think will maintain the character and the values that they're enunciating today. And that was a very important part of my decision. So what's changing? Well, probably not a lot that you're going to see. And you'll hear more from Rusty and others to reinforce that. But I believe our culture, our values, our brand, our management team, despite what some people might like, I'm not moving on just yet. My whole team is going to stay in place, and the whole employee team. Our operating plan is the same. Our season passes will remain the same. The acceptance of the Icon Pass this year would be just like last year. That will change in the future, but for this year it's the same. So not a lot of change in the main term. Next year, sure, there will be some changes. We will be offering the Icon Pass in place of some of our pass products, but we might offer some of our own locals as we have. That's to be decided. You know, we're going to work on that, and frankly, we're not going to announce it and give the competition a heads up. But, you know, we're going to be thinking about that after we close in January. So just a couple of final thoughts before I move on. I think in my communication, which I think some of you read, I kind of used the analogy of a daughter's wedding. And, you know, you're walking down, even though that daughter was a real pain in the ass as a teenager, you know, and you kind of... And believe me, my eldest daughter was a real pain in the ass as a teenager. But, you know, I got to that moment and I walked her down the aisle. I did have a lump in my throat. I didn't want to pretend, but, you know, a tear in my eye because, you know, things are changing. You know, it's going to be different. And despite everything that she thought about me, and she subsequently learned was all wrong, now she loves me and respects me and honors me. You look down the aisle and you said, is that person the right person for your daughter? And if you know you're turning somebody over to somebody that is going to love and respect and nurture and cultivate her, then you feel good and you're ready to go down. And yeah, it's going to change, but you're not saying goodbye. And so that's what I feel like right now. If you remember the Kenny Rogers song, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. When I left Merrill Lynch, believe me, I ran. Because I did not like what was happening, and I did not like the people that were running it. And unfortunately, I was right. But I ran because I didn't respect him, and I couldn't be part of that organization. So in this case, I'm folding because I think it's the right time to fold. But I'm staying in the game. So I'm not walking away, and I'm not running away. I'm certainly not retiring to a gated community in Florida. So you have me to kick around for a little while until I really feel that, you know, the next leadership is ready, and Altera agrees with that, and then I'm going to be really proud to turn that over. But I'm not going to be leaving at that point, because if I did, I'd have to deal with my grandkids because this is their home. This is where they love to come. This is our gathering spot. Lily raised her children here in Shelburne, Vermont. I raised mine as much on the mountain as down in Connecticut. So we're going to be around here for a long time. We may not have the equity ownership, but believe me, we're going to have the psychic ownership. And I actually can't wait for the day when I can kind of officially retire, and then I can get a new name on the Alpine Zone blog, and I can become the critic like all of you and give you all that good advice. And believe me, when I come in, I'm going to bring my own hot chocolate too, so I'm not going to spend a dime on food and beverage. So anyways, I really am excited, okay? It's been bittersweet, but now I'm really excited. I know we've done the right thing. I know it's the right thing for the community. I know you're going to see that, and I know you're going to really come to learn and respect this group behind me as much as I have. So now I'm going to turn it over to Rusty. And Rusty is a great guy. So we like a lot of things about Altera, but we like a lot of what's represented in Rusty. Rusty started as a lift operator. He's worked as a lift mechanic. He's worked as a ski instructor. He's worked as a tele guide. He has worked as a construction manager. He has done big equipment. He's actually even worked as the HR director, which they used to call personnel in those days. Rusty has bought and sold mammoths successfully. So he knows what it's like to actually own and run a business. He knows what it's like now to be part of a bigger organization. He's been chairman of the National Ski Area Association, which I'm currently, so I follow in really good footsteps with Rusty. But he has a terrific team they've assembled in the last 2 years. I couldn't be more pleased to introduce Rusty Gregory to you. Rusty.
Thanks for the very nice introduction, Win. If I was as good as Win said I was, I would have actually been able to keep one of those jobs that I had, but they kept moving me out, and I was just the last guy standing, I think, at Mammoth, and under a very famous guy, Dave McCoy, that some of you may have heard of. It's a pleasure to be in front of all you critics. I guess that's what he called you. I spent 40 years in a small mountain town, and while I don't understand this mountain town, I understand the passion that draws people to places like this. Some of you, how many of you were actually born here? Few, right? Many of you, those of you that were, stayed because you're passionate about the place, and my guess is that those of you that came here came to pursue those passions. I'm from Southern California. I didn't start skiing until after college, but love the mountains and love the beach. Those are the two places that we sort of, like the sign, be Sugarbush, be better here. It's kind of where we find the best versions of ourselves, and the people that choose to live in places like this care a great deal about the place they live. And they have very strong opinions about that place and about what should and shouldn't be done with that place. And I'm here to start my education. I may have been in the business for 40 years, but you know way more than I'll ever know about Sugarbush, the opportunities here, the challenges here. And so I'm here to learn from you tonight. And I'll say a few things just to sort of get you warmed up, and then I'll listen, and you can ask questions and or make comments or tell me what I've already done wrong already. I'm sure I've done something, and if I have, I guarantee you someone in the audience will know it tonight, and I will listen to what you have to say. So just a little bit about, I like to say about we, but Altera is so new that it would be presumptuous of me to say just because I feel a certain way that the company feels that way. So I will let everybody here who I'll introduce in a minute speak for themselves on issues. But I can tell you about how I think about the business. I think that this place, when I woke up this morning, I've been here before, opened the window up or the shades up actually. It looked cold outside because it was snowing, and it looks like a Norman Rockwell painting. It was perfect. Snow was like falling quietly out of the sky, and absolutely beautiful, at least for a ski guy like me, and nobody was on the hill. That was the only unbeautiful part, but that's going to happen soon, I know. And it just reminded me of the great places that we live and the importance of Mother Nature, passion for that kind of place. And it also reminded me that as important as that Mother Nature is, as beautiful as it was out my window, that from a business standpoint, that all these mountain towns feel passionate about that. About the beautiful trees, the snow, the blue skies, at least after the snow goes away, or the snowfall goes away. But from a business standpoint, it's sort of fundamental. We all have those, right? We have beautiful blue skies, white snow, and green trees. And the way I think about the business of resorts, the business of place, it has really everything to do with people. And I think about that pretty simplistically. You heard my career background. I have a degree in accounting finance, but I forgot all of that. But my background is, pretty basic, right? And I think that there's three things in this business, from my perspective, that we need to focus on, and that's really our guests, our employees, and our financial stakeholders. Many of our financial stakeholders are in this room. Your community is hooked to the financial stake of the company. It's a lot of people beyond just the ownership of the business, and the bank that lends us money and then always wants it back at absolutely the worst time. Those three constituencies compete for all the resources that we have. And the trick shot to running and managing and being part of communities in this is sort of balancing correctly really the insatiable needs and wants of those three constituencies: our guests, our employees, and our financial stakeholders. And I think the business is built around that. So if we can effectively balance those demands from all those people that represent each one of those categories, and many people are in each one of those categories, we can work with you to understand what the appropriate balance is, how best to do that, talk straightforward about it, give you the truth from our perspective, listen to your truth, and figure out together exactly how to do this. That's our intent. There may be a lot of questions tonight about, so what are you going to do about this? And what about that? And will you continue this? And my answer to that is, I don't even know what that and this is, right? I'm just here along with the team. We need to understand that from you, and the biggest reason that we teamed up, most importantly, last year with the Icon Pass with Win and his team, and the reason that we jumped at the opportunity because it was the right time for Win to buy it. Matter of fact, it was such a good time for you to sell. I'm trying to think about whether that's a good time for us to buy or not, but more on that later. I think it's too late now. So. Now, we're so excited to be involved in it, and a big reason for that, besides being the best available resort that fits into the culture that's developing at Altera, is that this is a place heading in a great direction already. And our first goal of mine and the team is not to do any damage to that. So it's about learning, it's about understanding how you think about things, it's about not thinking that just because we sit in Denver and have the checkbook that we know anything more than we did when we first talked to Win about just partnering with it. So we know that. And you should hold us to that and remind me that if we do something precipitous or unwise, and I'll bet I'll hear from some of you, let us know that. And we'll be listening to that. So I think it's about a lot of things. I think it's about the mountains, the amazing places where we find our best version of ourselves, but I think it's most importantly about the people, about the combination of the passions that run deep between our guests, our employees, and the financial stakeholders that back us all in doing all this stuff. And I think that that's really what it's all about. So somebody's going to ask me, we're on live TV?
You're live
streaming? So I'm just giving thought to what I'm going to say, but I'm too impulsive to control myself anyway, so I'll just say it. Or somebody's going to ask me, well, Vail, this, and what about Vail, and what's different between Vail and you guys? And Vail's been so successful that sometimes they're thought of negatively. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Vail, just to be clear. Rob Katz, who runs it's a very close friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. He comes from a totally different background than I do. But the approach that Vail takes has been incredibly successful. It's very hard to argue with that. Over 20 years or more, they've steadily built quite a place and completely changed, disrupted the industry several times, and really defined what the Vail brand is. And they got Vail from Vail Mountain. They did a great job running it, and they took that brand, packaged it up, sort of stamped it out around the U.S., in North America now, and in other places, and have done a great job with that brand. And that's been very successful for them, and it's exactly the opposite of the way that we're running our business, and exactly the opposite of the way we're going to the market. Not because it's wrong, it's just not right for us, our personality, our culture, and where we see the opportunity from a business standpoint going forward, which is what do the guests really want, what do our employees want to be affiliated with, and what's the best way to make money going forward. And we think that that's really based on finding very unique, one-of-a-kind, one and only kind of experiences in places that can provide that experience, and then investing capital, time, and energy into that. Find places that are already heading in that direction, that already have unique personalities, very strong, and Wynn has one of the most unique personalities I know of, and clearly in a tremendous relationship with all of you here, and I respect that a great deal. So that's a big part of the answer as to why we took the opportunity to partner with Wynn and Sugarbush, and the reason that we chose to acquire that, and that is that we're trying to be one company. We're so new, I'm not even sure I'd call us one company yet, but we're a bunch of unique brands, I can tell you that. Well-established brands from Stratton to Steamboat to Deer Valley to Squaw Valley to Mammoth to other places around the country. And the most important opportunity for us is to help those places, those resorts, become more of who they already are. So to take the special things as soon as we understand from you what those things are, to make sure that, number one, we're not doing any damage to that, and number two, that that's where the opportunity is. That's the way we see going to market. We think that the industry, to give you a few minor statistics, it's been exactly at the same level for, I don't know, I was chairman of the National Skiers Association in 2012, and it was before that, but we've been, as an industry, hosting somewhere between 50 and 60 million skier visits a year, meaning one person going 3 times, that's 3 visits. About 12 million or so unique individuals that are generating those visits. And baby boomers like me, I'm 65 years old, and they're aging out of the sport. Not Wynn and me, but a lot of the rest of them are, right? And
We're in our prime, Rusty. We're the Peter Pan of the future.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. And they're just barely being replaced by millennials, first-generation Americans, other constituencies that are moving in. And as we get to the peak of the baby boom exodus, it's very important for us to make sure that we're attracting people to the lifestyle. You know, it's a sport, but it's really a lifestyle. And like hot chocolate for free. You know what else? Oftentimes you can sneak crackers with ketchup. That's the way, because we paid such crappy wages at Mammoth. When I was a lift operator, I lived off of that. And I was in much better shape then than I am now. I didn't pay for any of that either, so that's a real tradition in skiing. Right, so I think that our approach to that is to provide these unique experiences to attract those new people that want to be part of this going forward, and it's very important that we help the experiences that are out there become more edgy, more defined as to who they are, and that's what will attract more people to these authentic experiences in towns and resorts that provide it. And so that's a little bit about how I think, and I'm trying to convince a team that's how we should think, and we got a lot of good debates about that going on. We're on a very decentralized operation. Very easy to say, very hard from a business model standpoint to work correctly, but we're making tremendous progress in that. And one of the other answers I'll give you tonight is that, I know we need to think about that, but we haven't thought about it yet. We're only 2 years old. We've grown dramatically in a very short period of time. So we're running a company hard and fast that really hasn't been invented yet in many, many ways. We joke, and it's not that much of a joke, that we're building the plane while we're flying it. And you're a part of that. The bad of that is that, we don't have our act together in every area, and I can't give you a bunch of real pat CEO kind of answers out of the book because we don't have a book yet. And if we had a book, I wouldn't know where to store it in the new offices that we have, so we're early to that stage. The good news, at least from my perspective, is somebody that comes from a personality or from a resort that has a strong community with very strong opinions and personalities about the resort, is that you're part of, with us, painting that picture. What should it be? What are the best practices? What should be individually unique to the resort, and what should we do across the resort? What are examples of across the platform things that we ought to do? Sustainability. You can ask David Perry that, who's head of sustainability. We're developing our model of sustainability. Diversity. That's something we should do across the whole resort. Comparable wages for comparable levels of authority and responsibility. We should do all of that. One of our kind of key principles is fun. All companies say that. It's going to be fun here. I can tell you, moving to Denver I love the people that I work with. It's not all that fun. I only skied 22 days last year. I always skied like 65, 70 days. But the people there are making it fun, right? So making it fun means access to, for those people that work in the company, those people in the community, to great experiences right down the block. All those things are very important, and I believe strongly in that stuff. So I'm going to sit down, and to the extent that you want to ask questions, throw things, make sure it's soft if you're going to throw something, and I'll do the best to answer the questions and give you responses. But I want to introduce you real quickly to our team. And I've learned that I have ideas about how we ought to do things, but it's best for me to let them speak for themselves. So Tim, you want to go ahead?
If there's any oxygen left in the room. So Tim Donahue, I wear a lot of hats at Altera. Chief Financial Officer is probably the most important hat that I have. I'm, I think, the lone New Englander at our headquarters. I grew up in Worcester, Massachusetts till I was 18. Went to school in New York, lived in New York City for 25 years. My wife and our 4 gorgeous kids just built our dream home in southern Vermont in Wilmington 6 months before he recruited me to move to Denver. So we've got some real estate in southern Vermont, if anyone's looking. Everything Rusty said is absolutely true about the culture and how we think about it. You know, I view it as the Hippocratic Oath. Rule number 1, do no harm. We buy businesses that are really well run, in great communities, great assets, great cultures. We don't want to touch that. All we want to do is give you the benefit of the scale that we have because we're a broad platform and because we've got geographic diversity, which means better cash flows, stable cash flows. The Icon Pass has allowed us some stability in what can be a very volatile business to reinvest in technology and marketing in our resorts. And that's the whole thesis behind this. So we don't want to screw up anything that's been done at the resort level, and we just want to help it. And as Rusty said, we're not a new company, we're a young company, and we're learning. We're like my 6-year-old. He's got really good intentions. He runs into the wall a lot. He does a lot of dumb things, but he's heading in the right direction. He's learning every day. And I think, you know, as Rusty said again, people are the key to this whole thing working. And that's why we're so thrilled to be teamed up with the team you have here. So thanks.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Patrice Malo, the French-speaking guy in the group. So my role in the company, primary role, I run a small ski resort called Tremblant. I have the luxury to be running this place since 10 years. Dual role in the sense that I'm now the Chief Operating Officer for Altera of the Eastern region. And that Sugarbush, this new acquisition, will fall into the Eastern region. And so that provides me the opportunity to work closely with the Sugarbush team to continue delivering on its mission. And coming back to what Rusty has said about the unique culture of all of our places, I can testify that in Tremblant, where we run our resort, it's one of those unique places. We have unique language, unique ways to doing business, and that has been celebrated in the Altera family, and it's been the same way as it was before Altera. And I think that the way we want to see things evolve with Sugarbush is to continue to celebrate this culture, this unique culture that you've got here. So my role with the company is to help Win get access to the various resources that we've got within the family, either within the Eastern resorts in which we can share best practices, or the Denver team, so that Sugarbush continues to deliver on its promises and celebrate its unique culture.
Hello, everyone. I'm Adam Knox, and I help lead strategy and corporate development for Altera. So for the last few months, I've worked very closely with Win and the rest of the team. Originally from Ohio, I learned to ski in Indiana and really fell in love with the sport there. I know there is skiing in Indiana. I'm sure everyone's shocked by that. But I followed my passion out to Colorado. I went to school out there, and then ultimately worked for KSL Capital Partners for the last 12 years. And while there, worked on a bunch of different things, but spent a lot of time on our ski investments, notably Squaw Valley, Alpine Meadows, Whistler Blackcomb, and then ultimately the series of transactions that formed the basis for Alterra Mountain Company. So I believe so much in the future of the company and the vision and the direction that we were going, I decided to jump ship, and I've worked full-time for Altera for the last year. So I'm really pleased to be here in such a special place with everyone in this room tonight. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is David Perry, and it's just really an honor and a pleasure to be here. And thanks for the great turnout tonight. This demonstrates the passion that's in this community, and we just love to see it. This is a great introduction for us from Altera to see all of you. So my background is I've been in the mountain resort business, ski business, my whole adult life. I've been in a lot of places. I spent about 18 years at Whistler Blackcomb in Canada and British Columbia. Moved my family to Colorado in 2000. And spent about 16 years at Aspen Skiing Company with the 4 ski areas there. I was chief operating officer. And when we formed Altera, the owner of Aspen, of course, is now one of the owners of Altera, the Crown family that Win mentioned. And so I worked for them for a long time, a very honorable, really smart business family, wonderful people. I'm thrilled that they're part of the ownership group. But forming Altera the last couple of years has been just a wild ride and a lot of fun. And my current role actually is in head of sustainability for the company and other special projects. And what that means is that, just we'll get into it more if somebody wants to know more, but, we're such a young company, as we said, we have a great opportunity to build a sustainability platform for our company that is very powerful and very modern. And also learns from what's already happened in places like Sugarbush and with the ethic that exists in this valley for sustainability, which is very, very strong. So I look forward to working with the team here and for doing some great things going forward.
We have some of our people, the stage wasn't quite big enough. We're a pretty inclusive company, so we like to include a lot of people. Is Jamie Williams, is he sitting down here somewhere? The bar must be open. Oh, hey, Jamie. So I'll introduce Jamie. I'm very proud of Jamie. Jamie is our head of IT. One of the most important things that we're trying to do is to really know our customers, know what they want, when they want it, and then how to actually offer them that through a proprietary technology platform that we're developing in-house and that we work very closely with our resort teams on. Jamie heads that up. He was IT director at Rogers Telecommunication, which is a huge, I think the largest, Jamie, telecommunications company in Canada, if I'm not mistaken. They're very vertically integrated. They're not just telecommunication. He was also a Sprint. He's an American guy, but went up there to Canada. They own sports teams. They owned, I think, ESPN Canada. They developed their own content. So he comes from a background that in many ways is not terribly dissimilar. So one of the things that the scale of Altera provides, at least from our standpoint, and why we think I'm one of the owners as well. I'm like the smallest of the 3 partners, but it's a lot of money to me. I can tell you, as an ex-lift operator, I'm paying great attention to it. We're investing a lot of that in Jamie's area on the IT side, so that we can truly understand our customers and creating a company of scale. In other words, allowing the resorts to sort of participate in all of that and have the revenue streams that allows us to pay for that. We can do what we couldn't do at Mammoth, what Aspen couldn't do by itself, but as a group that we can do and then share that ourselves and with our partners. So Jamie's a big part of that.
Russ, you're modest saying you're just learning, but our experience with the IT initiative of the Icon Pass last year was really impressive. When you think that you developed the Icon Pass and then you partnered with 27 resorts, all of who had independent systems, all of who had different gates, and on opening day last year, an Icon Pass holder was able to go directly to our lift, get scanned, recorded, we could see it real time, was amazing. A couple of times you were down, which was only a couple of times, you fixed it within minutes. So it was really impressive what your IT team did in your first year. So I like that learning.
Thank you. Jamie did a great job, and nobody was more shocked than me and the rest of the leadership team in Denver. It was like, oh my God, it actually worked. People bought the pass and it snowed and they were able to get through to the gates. So we've got a few more of our team members. I want you to meet them. And Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Ingracia. I'm the Assistant General Counsel. I specialize in real estate and corporate transactions. I'm also the point attorney for Stratton. I grew up in Bedford, New York, and I learned to ski at Killington and Hunter, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Thanks, Jennifer. Mike?
Hello, everyone. Mike Ferguson. I have the privilege of leading HR for Altera. I'm not the newbie because there's one guy here that is newer than me, but I've been with the company 5 months. Before that, spent 13 years with Chipotle. For those of you that know Chipotle, we kind of prided ourselves on employee culture and building the company around that, sustainability, caring about family farms and where our food comes from and the environment. And I saw a lot of those characteristics in Altera, and that's one of the big things that brought me here. Originally from Michigan, so near where Adam grew up, and just the ability to combine my passion for the outdoors in a professional career is pretty special at Altera. So glad to be here. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name's Amarpreet Jita. I'm a vice president in our corporate development and strategy team. I joined Altera just under a year ago and worked pretty closely with Adam actually on the original acquisitions that formed the basis of Altera at KSL Capital Partners. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. I spent a little bit of time in New York and LA, and I've been in Denver for the past 3 years. It's been incredible, and I'm honored and privileged to be here with you guys tonight.
Hi everyone, my name's Jack York. I am the newbie as I've been with the company for a full 3 months now. I am a senior analyst in our strategy and corporate development group. Grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and worked for 2 years with JP Morgan under Tim in New York City, and spent most of my weekends working rather than skiing. So when the opportunity arose for me to move out to Denver, I took it, and I'm excited to be here tonight with you all. Thank you.
So it took these bankers 18 years to get this. I got it 18 years ago.
Hi, everyone. My name is Charles Christensen. I'm Rusty's chief of staff, so he has a pretty open door policy, as I think you'll see throughout this event. But if someone's already in his building or in his room, you can always reach out to me, and it's we have a big managing up policy at the company, so that's a lot of what I do. I'm originally from Anchorage, Alaska. I grew up ski racing, and it's great to see so many GMBS jackets here in the building. Spent a lot of time competing here on this mountain, and just really excited to combine that background and then a professional background beforehand in Danaher Corporation, which is a decentralized process-first company. So I can tell you that the Altera way of letting companies do what they do is really what we believe in, and it's great to see. So thank you very much.
So Tracy, Charles emailed me yesterday, and he said he was hoping that he'd see Steve Utter here, because he knew Steve, and Steve isn't back yet from Colorado. But he emailed me and he said, say hi to Charles. He said he's a heck of a smart kid, highly motivated, and one heck of a skier.
So that's us, and at least representative of us and the other 25,000 employees that work at Altera. At the employee session we had just a little while ago, one of the questions was, what's it going to be like working for a big company? And my response to that is that if we do it wrong, you'll feel like you work for a big company. If you think you're connected to a large group that has good capabilities when you need it, but that you feel like you're working for Sugarbush, at Sugarbush, for your guests, your employees, your financial stakeholders, I said to the employees, then we will have done what we're trying to do, which is to keep these brands strong and relevant and support that. So I'll leave you with that, and any questions, comments that
So
I'm
just
happy
line
to
up,
talk
if you
about.
could, at one of the microphones. Tim Piper, right up to the middle here. And Eric, you want to run? Yeah, so a microphone over here, microphone here, microphone there, so we'll just go around whenever we see somebody. So Tim Piper.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank Win and his staff for being the stewards after ASC. I want to give them all a hand. It was terrific.
Tim, before you start, thank you for that thing. I just want to say that what a remarkable team we have here at Sugarbush.
Yes.
I mean, just unbelievable. 165 people have the dedication, the management group, every employee. So I'm just so proud of this team and what they've done and accomplished, and it has been a team effort. So thanks for saying that.
Right. First of all, I'm doing a little research on Vail versus Altera, et cetera. You remind me of the 1980s hotel chain that was called Radisson, which says we're a collection, not a chain, which I think is really, really strong. And I appreciate that. So my question is, if what you're doing is buying independent brands, how did you look at Sugarbush as a brand, and what was the strength that you saw in Sugarbush as a brand versus maybe a J. Peak or any other of the options that you might have had?
So from my perspective, and we've got Tim, who actually has spent a lot of time here back in the East, so I'll certainly let him speak about it. But from our standpoint, very straightforward. When we look at building our company, taking the idea of the Icon Pass, we talk about that being one company of many unique brands, building a global mountain community by uniting actually the world's aspirational resorts with key strategic regional resorts. And I think that my understanding of this resort and the brand, reputationally studying it, listening to some of the experts that work in our company, is that it's both an aspirational resort for the East in that people really kind of think about, I'm going to my local area, but I want to go stay overnight up at Sugarbush, and that it's a very key strategic regional brand, by far the best resort for us, for our culture that we're trying to develop, and that was actually available in the East. So as we put together the network of what I just described, this network of regional and aspirational brands that has a large group of skiers from big population areas, certainly the wider kind of populated areas around Burlington, but Boston, somewhat New York. That's a large group of people that are very important, and they're very passionate in many ways about coming here. So that fits into the overall network well, and it is for the East. It's a big mountain resort with great skiing. It's a real mountain. It's not just a place where a lot of people go. Those two combinations, a number of visits and from relevant markets that we're focused on, with a great real mountain experience, with the right people already heading in the right direction, that all fits together for us to be a big opportunity, and that's why we're here.
So Chan Weller, our original marketing director, does that sound okay? Yeah, okay. All right. So Kyle, I bet you're going to ask a question about sustainability.
That's two. Number one is, are you going to keep the cow?
Keep the cow?
Yeah.
God, was that an excluded asset or not?
It has a...
Oh, damn.
If you remember its history.
Oh, damn, I forgot to exclude that asset. You own the cow.
Yeah.
You own the cow. I kept Lily's painting the farmhouse. They don't get that.
Yeah, because you remember the history, how it got here, et cetera,
I do.
et cetera.
Dottie is right back there, who painted the cow. The cow is staying, Dottie.
Okay. Now, the other thing is you talked about climate change. And climate change affects is a lot more complicated than it may seem on the surface. And I know Wynn has done some great strides in trying to get time to time clean, renewable energy here, because you guys use a lot of energy. And you also have the parking spaces, and I understand you're getting a lot more. And hopefully you guys will get electric cars. And the other thing is, the Mad River Valley is a very special place. Sugarbush may have been here a long time and has a great name, but the Mad River Valley is a place that you'll never forget. And that's why Wynn, I think, came here, and it deserves your respect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so right. That's why we're staying here too. But by the way, on energy usage, thank you for that lead-in, because we were just meeting with Green Mountain Power yesterday, and several years ago, our peak demand was 12 megs. Last year, our peak demand was just over 7 megs. So we've actually shedded about 5 megs of energy.
So David,
Now,
I'm sorry, what? Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, before Chan.
Yeah, David, you want to comment a little bit on our developing platform for sustainability?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad the subject came up. It's something I'm very passionate about. And, the speaker, sort of the gentleman's name, but really talked about it, because the climate crisis that I believe that we're in now, it used to be global warming, which was an unfortunate name, and then it was a climate change issue, and we kind of got lackadaisical about it. Now I think it's a climate crisis. It's primarily human caused, and we're not doing enough about it, especially in this country. And so as a company, we know how important this is, not just to the world, but it's also important, it's one of our core values, which is to be responsible to our environment. And also, what's happened here at Sugarbush is quite impressive, and in Vermont too as well. So to me, it's a lot about energy sources and uses, as just came up. That's really where the key to the lock is going to be. But as I mentioned briefly, and Rusty just said, we're starting to build a platform for sustainability in our company, and we're going to roll it out across all of our operations. And it really is going to have three components. Number one is to what I call green our own house, meaning take care of our own operation, run it responsibly, reduce your energy needs, like Wynn just talked about, and the environment, the forest, the watershed, everything else, and run it hopefully with as close to a zero footprint as possible as we go forward. We want to do that in all of our places. So green our own house is a very complex thing, but it's very important. And at a lot of our resorts, frankly, already in Altera that we've assembled, we're not very far along. We're not as far along as you are here in Vermont, as a matter of fact. So we've got a lot of work to do, and there's a real sense of urgency around it for me and for our company. The second thing is to what I call speak with one voice. So it's important that the employees here at Sugarbush, the community, all of you folks here that believe so much in the pristine nature of this place and want to preserve it for all time, you have a voice, and our visitors have a voice because they love to come and visit us. So if we can combine our employees, the community, and our visitors to speak loudly with the loudest voice they possibly have about making change happen at the highest levels of the policymakers in this country, then we can be effective, not just for the ski industry and for this valley, but for the world. So speaking with one voice and uniting ourselves is, to me, very, very important. And thirdly, it's about outreach and advocacy, which is how you use your voice. Wayne and I were just recently in late September in Washington, D.C. with the organization POW, Protect Our Winters. And we were lobbying on Capitol Hill, 36 different meetings with senators and House representatives and their staffs, telling them how important it is that we step our game up, and from both sides of the aisle. And that's just one of the efforts that needs to happen. So if we green our own house and we can speak with one voice, we can get everyone together and speak with a very loud voice to change the policies that need to shift. And so that's the core of our platform, and it's very much energy focused. And we look forward to working with all of you to make that successful as we go forward.
But, so in Washington, I had an easy job because I got to call on the New England representatives, so it was kind of like a kumbaya. Poor David has to visit some of the other states. But anyway, we're making progress. And if you don't know about Protect Our Winters, Google them, look at their Instagram. It's a great group of young athletes that started this, and they really are advocating, and the young population really is following organizations like that. So we're really proud to be supporters of theirs. So Chan Weller is up. Chan was the first marketing director at Sugarbush. Last year, celebrating our 60th anniversary, we had a lot of storytelling. Chan just filled us with some great anecdotes from the early days. Some of you may not have been there when he told the story one day of landing a small airplane on the top of Upper Snowball before Ski Patrol got to the mountain, and off the mountain, Jennifer, before any lawyer knew what had actually happened there. So that was kind of the great old days and the culture that existed here. So are you going to tell us that story tonight?
No. No stories. The only thing I would like to say is that this is the 7th meeting I've been at, is this, with ownership change. And I can tell you from the experience I've had over my 75 years is that I am more excited for Sugarbush right now than I have been for the prior 2 out of those 7 meetings that I was excited about. Altera is an outstanding group of people. The mountains that they run, I'm old enough to know Gamoser and McCoy and Cushing and all those guys, right? And the folks that you've brought into underneath your umbrella, they all have their absolute individual platform in the business. It's not a mega group. And you guys are, as far as I'm concerned, the best thing that ever could happen to Sugarbush, with the exception of maybe Wynn staying a little bit longer. And and the other thing I'd like to offer is a suggestion for you for next year, as soon as you sign that bottom line, is instead of having a hot chocolate cost $2.63 and putting all that loose change in our pocket, make it $3.50 or $4. We don't really care. but get rid of the pennies and the nickels, all right? And welcome.
That's a marketing guy. You know, we're talking obviously about this change, but you know, we actually have had some other business changes which I think are positive. One of the positive things is we have a new director of food and beverage who's a Frenchman named Stéphane, and I think you're going to really enjoy some of the changes. I don't know if we'll go to that rounding up, but I think you'll enjoy some of the changes Stéphane is going to make. Jordy.
Thank you, Win. Sugarbush has been a major force in this valley, as you probably recognize. But not only are they a major force in the valley, they're also extremely supportive of and engaged in the valley, you know, on an individual basis, on a corporate basis. And could you talk to us about Altera and how you engage the local communities in which you have resorts, and maybe even give us some examples? So, Win, we thank you for that and what Sugarbush has done.
So the way we intend to engage the local community and their philanthropic needs and capabilities is to really follow what you're doing already. Green Mountain School, disabled programs, the other things that you're already doing, those are reflections of the way you feel about corporate opportunity and obligation and privilege, actually, to be able to help. And so the idea that we would come in and somehow redirect that to a higher and better purpose is, to me, a bad notion. You already know what matters to your community the most. Clearly, Sugarbush, like most resorts in these small communities, are important players. An awful lot of the community is connected to the resort in one fashion or another. And we believe in going to market locally. By going to market, meaning how do we take care of our guests, our employees, our financial stakeholders, and that group together through the local perspective. And so you've already got a well thought out, well-reasoned approach to all of that. So our job is to help you continue that. That's all part of helping you be more what Sugarbush already is. We're trying to do the same thing in Denver. While the company in its former form in Interwest was in Denver, it's really a whole new company in Denver. The offices that we have there, and so the same thing is happening in Denver. So our offices are in an area that, I'm an old guy, that the average age, besides me being 65, is 36 years old. There's a bunch of very cool hipsters that work there that never sit at their desk. They're always like wandering around the office in their computers. And they're very interested in the homeless problem that's really prevalent in the area that we have. So a lot of our volunteerism in Denver and the money that we are starting to provide as a new company is directed towards that, for instance. So we see dealing with the problem locally. We see running the business locally. We see enabling from the big resources that we have as a large company, enabling that local perspective, and that's the whole basis for our existence, frankly.
So we have 7 values we've had really from the beginning, one of which is really commitment to the community. So I did ask, that question in our due diligence is, do you want any of the values to change? And the answer was no. And they're very similar values to what they have. So our commitment to the community, in my view, is going to continue, as is not only Sugarbush, but my family's commitment, Jordy. So you can still call me for that annual call.
I'm hiding over here in the corner. Hi.
Thanks.
So, question. I've been listening a lot to the Epic podcast from Val, and one of the recent episodes was actually about women leadership and development and how ski companies are really trying to promote that within the industry. And seeing a lot of male representation today, I would love to know, 1, do you have any other women on your executive management team? And 2, what are you doing to sort of promote and develop women leadership within the community and Altera as a whole?
And the answer is not enough.
That's a good answer.
And I'm going to let Jennifer speak here, who can speak to women's issues much better than I. So the first thing is we ought to know when we need to shut up on my side of the aisle. I'm good at that. I have very strong women in my circles. And again, we're a new company. And if you look around, it reflects an awful lot, I'm sorry to say, of the ski industry in general, which is you see younger to a certain extent, but you see a bunch of white guys around, right? Yeah. And we need to change that. We have the opportunity to do that. Jennifer, you want to talk about that a little bit?
So in legal, we are primarily female. In finance, we're heavy female. We have a women's leadership initiative, a diversity initiative as well. Some of us came out of big corporations where that was definitely a driver, and Altera, more so than IntraWest, has been extremely supportive of our efforts, and those are getting off the ground now. So I think you can be assured that they'll continue to develop.
So at Sugarbush, obviously, we feel very strongly about that as well. So on our executive committee, there are 2 women, hopefully more. Amber Broadway runs our guest service, risk and safety, and Anne Marie Todd, who's in charge of HR. But what was really interesting to me is if you look at our management group, I believe 50% are women. So we've really gotten some great diversity at that management level. And also I feel very strongly about it because I have strong women in my family. I've got 2 of my own, and they've matured now, so they're lovely. But I have 4 stepchildren, and I have at least 2 women granddaughters. And also I've just been recently asked to be the honorary co-chair, along with Mary Powell, of the Vermont Women's Fund Capital Campaign. And I'm really honored to be doing that. I think it's wonderful they asked a male to do that so that we can help to educate other males about the importance of women issues and a really nice organization like the Women's Fund.
So just following on that, because it's such an important question, the biggest opportunity for us to do something about it is actually taking the significant resources that we have across now a large platform by funding the HRAS system, so we can actually really keep track of those people, what their talents are, what their interests are, and not be locked into this sort of vertical within an individual resort or community, which tends to be a bit stifling. People come in, they stay for a long time, like Wynn and me, right? And but if you take across the company laterally, there's a lot of opportunity for change, and the best opportunity for us is to promote people within. And we have a lot of women in the company that aspire to greater things. We need to enable that. We need to add education, experience, internal internship and education to that. And over time, you'll see us leading the industry, not following it in that area.
And to complement on what Rusty just said, just as of recently, we had the 2 women promoted as head of resorts. So the head of Solitude in Utah is a woman, and the one who's leading Snowshoe in West Virginia is a woman that was promoted from within. So that's part of the effort that is being done. And obviously, the more that get into the senior position will provide even further more opportunities to group women into those senior positions.
Thank you.
We intend to add more French speakers as well, so across the board, we're...
Très bien.
You sound so much better than I do saying the same thing.
A strong woman in my life has just gotten up.
Hi, everybody.
This is my wife, Lily.
Hi, you guys. I want to welcome you to the family, to the Valley, first of all, and to the Sugarbush family. And I have a really good feeling about this coming together. I have, from behind the scenes as it's been in the works, and I'm really glad you all are here. But Wynn has always prided himself as never having had a lawyer on staff.
Shh. You can echo.
Oops. So my question is, can we still get away with some of the fun things we do, like skiing down after eating and having wine up at Allen's Lodge at night? And we've only lost 1 or 2 people over the years. It's my understanding.
Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
I think we're pretty good at disclosing most of the fun things we do here.
So I won't read this to you because people like in my team kind of gloss over, oh my God, he's pulling out the culture card again. But I really believe in this stuff, mostly because I wrote it. And it's got a list of behaviors. And it says, never let a rule get in the way of the right decision. So that fun, that stuff, you should keep doing that. I'll keep the lawyers at bay, and you just guys keep having a good time. So it is a risk sport, by the way, right? The mountains?
Yeah, we do make them sign a disclosure now. Our insurance company did require that eventually. But no, I think that's that's something unique. Is to keep the culture in place. This is about camaraderie and fun as much about skiing, right? And so that's what we have to keep is a culture of fun, and constantly innovating. Because if we really try to be something like somebody else, we're not going to be successful. We have to keep that individual character, constantly change, constantly innovating. And Rusty said earlier in the day, or Tim said earlier in the day, if you don't try things and fail, you never learn, right? So not everything you're going to do is correct, but you got to have enough courage to try stuff. Eric Friedman.
Hi.
Our Chamber of Commerce leader, former marketing director of Mad River Glen.
And I almost as long as Chan, right? Not quite. On behalf of the Mad River Valley business community, I'd like to just to welcome you to the Mad River Valley, and we're really glad to have you here. And while I have this opportunity, I want to, I've known you since you took over here, and we've had a great partnership, and it's really been a lot of fun, and it's been really enjoyable pulling the Valley together. And I think one of the things that you've been so successful with is working, when I was at Mad River Glen, to pull the Valley together and work together. And I'm so appreciative of that. You've been such a great partner, and really, I really am honored to have had that opportunity to work with you, and I look forward to working with you folks in the business community as you guys get in here.
Thank you, Eric. That's very nice of you. I remember, Eric, over the years where we had a few changes in marketing, and every marketing director would come in, Eric would take him out, and he'd say, "You won't last a year." And occasionally they lasted more than a year, right? Candace and Ted, so we beat your bet. But Eric is I'm so delighted Eric is leading the chamber, by the way. I think that is the best thing that's happened to the chamber here, so congratulations to you. On the left.
Yeah, good evening. I do want to thank you, Wynn, for your heart, soul, and investment that you've put into Sugarbush over the last 18 years. And to that end, I have more of a financial question. I understand the efficiencies, the cost efficiencies of scale, but I don't understand the revenue model. And that's what I wanted a little clarification on. I know that when you sell season passes, quad passes, those revenues belong to Sugarbush. But when you do the Icon Pass, is there revenue sharing? Do some point of sales stay with us at Sugarbush? You've got a collection now. Who gets all of the funds? How are the funds distributed from the Icon Pass? Or could you just explain the model?
That's a really good question, and and I'll just give you a straight answer to it. So you're really referring to, I think, primarily the resorts that we own. So we have 15 resorts when we get out to closing date, counting Sugarbush. Included in that is CMH, the heliski operation that's got lots of helicopters, and then 11 backcountry lodges. We count that as a destination, even though it's more than that. And then we have 27 partners. So the 27 partners, we have all sorts of kind of unique, bespoke relationships about how we share revenue for those partners. But with respect to the company itself, I think you're asking a fundamental question. And that question is, hey, if we make a bunch of money here in Sugarbush, which Wynn already is, I know he is because he made us pay for that in the price for this. And so it's important for us to continue that profitability. But the question you're asking is, so that profitability, where does that go? Does that stay local? Is a certain amount committed locally? How do we decide, how much, I think you're saying, how much stays here in Sugarbush and how much goes somewhere else, right? So how does that
kind of like
exactly
our school
work?
system.
I'm not an expert in your school system, and that sounds like politics I should stay out of for the moment. And so the answer to that is that we, and I said it before, we have scarce resources of time, energy, and capital, and that the hard part is figuring out how to allocate that correctly. And the answer is one that needs to go to the highest and best use. Now the question is, what's the highest and best use? So we need to manage the company by the numbers. So that means that it matters where we invest, and we need to get a return on that. But we also need to manage it to the story, to the possibilities, to the aspiration, and we're private, and we intend to stay private. It's a very big company, and I think surprised the employees didn't ask that before, and all things are possible. We're a very large company, but I can tell you, given the ownership that we have, this is not a company that we're buying so that we can flip it, do an IPO and a bunch of people leaving to make a bunch of money. This is a long-term investment. The Crown family's owned Aspen since the mid-'80s. We are a very, very large company. It just like it wakes me up in the middle of the night to think how big we are. 25,000 employees running around soon, 26,200 running around doing whatever they're doing at night. I wonder what the heck's going on with the company. But it's a very large company, so we also need access to the lowest cost debt and equity capital. Being public sometimes is the right answer to that, but that's a very different reason to be public than to liquidate your interest by going public and creating liquidity so a few rich guys can depart the company. So we have very long-term interest in this. The Crowns do, and so does KSL, even though they're a private equity firm. Their intent is to stay involved in this for a long time. So the answer to where's the money go, where it's going to make the biggest difference. So where does it make a biggest difference? At least to have a minimum level of investment across the platform. We can't be taking all the money from one area, sticking it in another area, have pieces of the network fall below their brand standards. Otherwise, this idea that we're really about the brand and the individuality of those resorts, if we don't put money into that, we're not telling you the truth. If we're not telling you the truth, I'm going to be in a meeting like this, and you're going to be handing my rear end to me, telling you that I lied about it beforehand. So the answer is I can't tell you where we're going to put the most money. We're going to put it where it makes the most difference. And we bought Sugarbush because we think that there's big opportunities here. So the priorities are, and there are WIN's priorities, and we bought into that. So that first priority is snowmaking. Second priority is F&B. Third priority is housing. And when we hear from the team here that that priority has changed or exactly what the dollar amount is, we'll be working to figure out how to fund that. But along with all the other needs that we have, and that's part of that difficult job of allocating the scarce resources that we have, we'll be very open and candid about what we're thinking, what we're doing, why we did it, the mistakes we made, how we think we would do it again, and what we're learning from. And I'm very open to you providing your opinions on what should be funded. And if you think we're spending too much money in one place and not in another, tell me again, and we'll talk about it.
You know, I think I worked for Merrill Lynch for 28 years. And so I was part of a big organization. I had a fairly large organization. And it was the same sort of thing. You know, we had a bottom line, we had a result. But, you know, when we needed to make investments, we didn't just say, okay, we're going to spend money. You know, we had to make a case that there's a good ROI on it, it makes sense. So I don't imagine it's going to be any different. Frankly, it's not any different than we've been running this for 18 years. You know, we sit down at the end of the year, we look at what's our free cash flow after paying bank debt, you know, and then we really have to say, okay, you know, what should we be investing in? Some of it is, you know, make sure we don't get deferred maintenance, but some of it is on major initiatives, whether it's low energy guns, et cetera. So I would see my responsibility, my successor's responsibility, of doing the same thing. You know, we're going to have a P&L. You asked the question of how do you allocate the Icon Pass. Well, there's going to be some formula for how that gets allocated back. But our ticket revenue is here, our food and beverage revenue here, our ski instructor revenue is here, our expenses are here. So we're going to have a bottom line. And then that bottom line, we're going to have to say, okay, you know, we really think this year, you know, we should be spending $3 million on these CapEx projects and make our case. So now, you know, the case has to be made not just to me as it has been, but I have to then feel comfortable with the case and make the case to Rusty and the Altera group.
So I think you have a follow-on. You were going to say something else? So I want to be, so really you're talking about, to paraphrase, it's really the revenue, you're talking about a revenue share. So the way I think about it, it's really revenue, because the only thing we have to share is the revenue less the expenses required to produce that revenue, and then the bottom line that Win is talking about, often called EBITDA by financial wonks, right? You know, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, which is like free cash flow at the end of the day. We also have to pay taxes and things like that. And we have a certain amount of money left over. We have a lot of different size resorts. You know, this is a very profitable operation. We have some that are smaller, and we have some that are dramatically larger than this. All of that money, to give you a straight answer, goes to one place. It goes into, I don't know, whatever the bank accounts that we have are, and then it gets allocated back out, that profit, to the resorts that have ideas that'll make what we think are the biggest difference. And the people around the table for that are among many people, are the regional chief operating officer, of which Patrice is one, representing the East. But in addition to that, the presidents of each one of the resorts are at the table. We just yesterday, which is the only reason I have this suit coat on, I have to return it, it's a rental. It's not something that I like to be in very often. And because we had a big board meeting yesterday in Chicago at the Crown Family offices, and we went over probably, over the course of the last couple of months, $400 million of requests for capital expenditures this year. So we didn't have that much money. That's, even for a company our size, that's too much for 1 year. So that's $200 million. And based on a capital plan of 5 years, that it looks like it's at least $200 million a year. And we allocated that out among the resorts. And there was arguments and debate, and we think we came up with a good plan. So that gives you at least some proportional idea which Sugarbush's profitability will add to, and that gives us about $200 million a year to start with. And we think out of that we can create a kind of a minimum level of maintaining the capital base here, as well as doing the individual projects on top of that make the biggest difference. And we'll go through that in front of the community, because you'll know what we're doing and what we're not doing, and you'll express your opinions. We'll listen, and we'll work very closely, most importantly, with the team here, and figure out how to sort through that very difficult job of allocating scarce resources.
Chris, you're over there first? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Yasha. I'm like the resident Gen Z in the room. Bought my college icon pass. I'm pretty stoked about using that this winter. I just have to say I wanted to know two things. One, about increasing job opportunities for the youth in the state. I know we have an aging population, and there aren't a lot of post-college opportunities for people like myself. We spend a lot of money on college, so we kind of need to make it back. If you can speak on that. And then the second one would be summer operations. I know the snow's falling, but we have a pretty cool mountain bike system here. I'd really love to see an increase of accessibility for trails of all varieties. It's pretty gnarly up there. You have to know exactly what you're doing, and I think that that'd be a great opportunity for you guys to expand on.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to ask the folks from Altera to talk about opportunities for growing youth opportunities and employment. I mean, I think that's really the responsibility of the business. The biggest answer I would give is, if we're successful, we're going to have more opportunities. I mean, right now, frankly, we're dying for labor. So if there are youth out there that want a job, we have jobs to give them. So they can run lifts, they can help in the food and beverage, they can help in snowmaking if they're the right youth. So we have job opportunities for youth. So I think, it's a big issue in Vermont. It's much broader than just us, but obviously it's something that we're concerned about. So if we're successful, we are going to have jobs that are going to be available. And I would love to have more youth come in and apply for jobs, or even, intern with us. In terms of summer opportunities, I think this is, again, an area where we can learn. I mean, Patrice at Tremblant, they have phenomenal summer opportunities there. Our mountain has some limitations. I feel very strongly, and I think the Altera team feels strongly, is I don't want this to be a carnival. I'm not going to put mountain slides on the mountain. That's not something that I would feel comfortable doing, Ferris wheels. We have to find the right type of activity that works for this community. And so getting that trick correct is going to be important, and I do think we can learn from the experiences at some of the other resorts.
I can't believe we're not going to have Ferris wheels. A little bit touching back on your question, and it's relevant about summer opportunities, for instance. The biggest debate, on the difficulty of allocating these scarce resources, the biggest debate happens internally, not among the resorts, but within the resorts about, should it be the mountain biking park? Should it be a new lift? Should it be housing? Should it be the hotel that can go in out here? What's the right place to put the money? You can't put it in all those places, so we have to figure that out. So we need to fund the numbers, right, where the profitability comes, so we can do even bigger projects. But we also have to fund the story, meaning that some of the things that we need to put money in, they don't pay back in the first year, second year, or third year. But we have to get the right combination of both of those things. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to make those long-term investments that are critical parts of the resort infrastructure. So it's a really hard thing to do. There'll be a lot of opinions about it. We'll be very open about what we're doing.
You stole some of my thunder on that. You mentioned opportunities, and potentially that's revenue opportunities I expect for the company. You must have identified some within the company that were your targets. Could you speak to those a little more specifically?
Well, I think Adam can talk about it maybe more articulately than I can, as the guy who's really analyzed this. But one of those is just to to work the Icon Pass, the platform that I think Wynn can speak to more specifically, that was successful last year, brought more volume, but the right amount of volume. You know, it's not about just bringing a bunch more people all on the day where you already have enough people there. It's about spreading them out somehow, making sure the product morphs that way. So we think there's a lot of opportunities on the revenue side through the pass, through development of innovative products on the pass. It's also some big opportunities on understanding your guests more and within the context of all of our guests, so that we can provide real opportunities for them to get exactly what they want at exactly the right time at exactly the right price, and to be able to do that in a way that matches the capacity that you have with the demand that we can determine in the marketplace better as we're able to put that technology platform in place. In addition to that, there are some, I think probably some more B2B facing side, like, you know, we buy a lot of snowcats. We can buy them a lot cheaper over our platform, a lot cheaper than one resort can. We can buy chairlifts, gondolas, a lot cheaper. We can buy food, daily supplies, a lot cheaper by leveraging our size. We can do the technology platform, I said, because we're big enough to do that. We can share that among all the revenue that we have. And so those are examples of the kind of things that we can do. Adam, you have any other additions to that?
No, I think you really hit on the highlights there. And, you know, from Denver or Rhino's perspective, we'll also provide additional support in some of these key functional areas to help the resort be that much more efficient and that much more profitable. So think of centralized revenue management as a support system, not to take away a job that's here locally, but it's an additional resource that someone on the marketing team who's in charge of lift products can rely on to help kind of think through how Sugarbush fits into the competitive landscape.
So to follow up on, you know, what do we experience last year with the Icon Pass holder? We saw, you know, a nice incremental increase in visits here. I think the Valley Lodging restaurants saw, you know, a nice benefit. What was really interesting is I'd say almost all those people were either first-time visitors to Sugarbush or not been here in a long time. And that's something we've been trying to do for a long time, is really repopulate. We've got a lot of loyal people. The greatest number of skier visits still come to the Sugarbush Pass holder, but you kind of constantly have to regenerate. So we were really pleased with that. It was sort of aspirational. They came here, you know, not for 10 days, but they'd ski a day or two. And I'm hoping this year that we're going to see, you know, those people not only coming back, but bringing their friends, because we know from our customer surveys that they had a very good experience here in the Valley, not just at Sugarbush. So I think that is very positive, Chris.
Thank you.
Any other right, left? Yes, Bob. Adam, you came in. Thank you. Adam Gresham is here.
Yeah. So I just wanted to welcome Altera here and thank Wynn. I mean, obviously, I spent a lot of time here, both under ASC and under some adventures. But as a selectman in Warren, I want to welcome Altera to the town of Warren. And I also, as chairman of the Mad River Valley Planning District, want to welcome you to the Mad River Valley community, and certainly hope that we can work together and go forward. And this is a unique community. I have to tell you, you won't find too many like it. It's three towns trying to figure out how they can be one, and at times they want to be one, and at times they don't want to be one. But we have a very unique experience here, and I think we welcome you, and hopefully you'll become a strong partner with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Bob, that kind of reminds me when David Pillen was pitching to be a marketing assignment. He came up with the tagline. He said, "Sugarbush, eclectically weird." we thought Be Better was a little better than that. Molly, are you coming up? All right. The president of the Vermont Skier Association. By the way, Molly was a great addition to that. Has done a wonderful job in the first year and a half here.
And a former marketing director, too.
And former marketing director of Sugarbush, Bolton, Loon. So a pro in the industry who knows what it's all about. Molly.
How many former marketing directors do you have?
Let's see. Chan, Molly, Candace was here early. Yeah. Ted is still here. He's still our current guy. Oh, he left. Oh, bye. No, he's right there.
Job's posted. We all
And actually, everybody in this room is a marketing director, too. So
that's right.
Yeah.
We all come out of the woodwork. on behalf of Ski Vermont and the rest of our membership, I'd like to welcome Altera and certainly congratulate Wynn. The fact that Altera is here is really a testament to you, your stewardship, your leadership, your investment in our community here. I am a native, or not a native, I'm a resident, I should say. I'm not a native. So congratulations and welcome to you. I deal a lot with the State House and the politicians in Vermont, and Wynn has been very active politically. And so my question to you is, will you allow and kind of foster your resorts to be active politically? Because it is really important when we need someone to come over and testify. Often Wynn will come over and testify, and he's a great voice and one of the people that we really rely on. So I hope that you'll continue that, because obviously we are kind of a quirky state and a lot going on politically, and certainly we're a very important industry to the state as well. So I hope that you will stay politically active as well.
Thank you very much, Molly. Nice to actually put a face with a reputation. It's a pleasure to meet you. And the answer to that is we'll continue to do that. It's essential for our resorts, our company, to have relationships with the people through their local representatives, their county representatives, their state representatives, federal representatives. It's very important. There'll be most of the time when I think that the business that we'll be doing and the things we'll be expressing will be on really a local and state level, and that's absolutely best left to the resorts within the states that have the relationship, particularly Wynn, that have relationships with those leaders. And at the appropriate time, like David was talking about on sustainability, speaking with one voice, there'll be a reason to us to go to the federal government and talk to them. And we'll be doing that through our local presidents, organized mostly by David, frankly, to make sure that our voice is heard federally. Many of us are on federal lands, as you know, and so we need to operate very actively in all of those levels. That's the American way, and that'll be something that continues.
You know, Molly, this is a remarkable state. So the day that we made the announcement, I was back in my office trying to clean out my nice emails that were coming in, and the phone rang. And usually I don't answer the phone unless I recognize, this call forwarding, but this one said Capital. I go, Capital? That's interesting. Pick up and go, hello? He says, Wynn, Patrick here. It's Patrick Leahy. He said, I just left you a message on your phone, your cell phone. You may not have gotten it yet, but I just wanted to call you and congratulate you. And he said, I'm also really happy that when I wake up in the morning and I go out and I see Sugarbush and I say, good morning, Wynn Smith, I can still say that. So that's the type of state we are. A senator in a very busy time takes the time to call. Peter Wells sent me a text. He's obviously key, really involved in the House Intelligence Committee right now. But this state is really special where it's small enough that people, whether you're totally aligned politically or not, they're human beings, they care, and they just make this a very special place. So yes, I hope to stay involved, Molly. And I'll say another thing too, which is interesting. In the announcement, you have a big PR team, right? You have a great PR team, but they said, you handle the local press. I don't have to ask permission to speak to Ann Wallace or Lisa Lynn or Ann Galloway, about local matters. I'm not going to speak about Altera, but they're giving us the flexibility of speaking here locally about what makes sense. So it's not going to be 2 months to get permission to speak to a reporter. We can call me up and we can respond, but we're not going to respond about Altera. We're going to talk about Sugarbush. Who else? Oh, yes, Matt.
Hello. Matt Lillard, I'm General Manager of Mad River Glen, and on behalf of Mad River and our 2,000 skier owners, I just wanted to welcome Altera to the Valley. I had the pleasure of meeting Rusty earlier today. I look forward to working with the rest of you. We at Mad River Glen truly believe that between Lincoln Peak and Mount Ellen here at Sugarbush and Mad River Glen, we've got an experience that is unmatched in Vermont and the Northeast as far as providing a destination for people to come to the Valley. I think with Eric at the helm of the Chamber and all of you other business owners and residents, what we can offer people is so different and so special that it's really something that we can all build on. And we at Mad River are very excited to have some more, more people involved here at Sugarbush. It's really great to hear that Wynn and the senior management team that we work so well with is staying on. And we're just really excited about the future and excited with working with you. So I just want to officially welcome you to the Valley.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
So I said to some of you guys.
Additionally, as a resident, I'd like to say, from a mountain biking standpoint, I think it's a really good investment to move forward with that. And there's a lot of kids. A lot of us head a little bit farther away to find places to mountain bike, and you've got a great product to start here. But really look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Some people have asked what's going to feel like being an employee again, and I said, I don't know. I'll figure it out. I did it for 28 years, but I'd much rather be reporting to one person instead of 2,000. Anybody else? Well, look, oh, yes, great. Thank you. Wonderful.
Hi, my name is Hadley. I grew up here. I've lived here since I was 5, and I've been skiing both Sugarbush and Mad River. And my question is about climate change. So even if you guys succeed in having a carbon footprint of 0, climate change might still affect you. This was the warmest fall on record. So I'm just wondering, what will you do to deal with that? And how do you see that affecting your business in the future?
Well, I could maybe start with that. I mean, that really was one of the reasons for the transition to Altera, is I do think we're going to have to make a greater investment in snowmaking. Personally, I don't think skiing is disappearing in our lifetime. I think we're fortunate we are geographically. I think we're further north, we're further higher. I think we are going to be less vulnerable than some other places that's south of us. I think Vermont is really well positioned. It has probably the best snowmaking infrastructure of any state in the nation. So that's very possible. But I think what is happening is we're clearly seeing more volatility in the weather patterns here. We believe we need to anticipate so that when we have those climate changes that impact us, like a thaw or a thaw and a freeze, that we're able to react much quicker than we currently have today. So today on this mountain, we are putting out just under 4,000 gallons a minute. That's up significantly from when we bought the mountain. We were probably struggle with diesel engines to put out 800 gallons a minute. Okay, so we're at that 4,000 level. That allows us to get a trail like Snowball Spring Fling open in 48 to 72 hours. But what we should be doing is increasing the capacity maybe to 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 gallons per minute. That's not saying we're going to put more water on the mountain over the course of a season, but it's saying that we're going to take advantage of those windows of opportunity, which may be shorter, in order to make snow. Snowmaking is going to be key to the future of the ski business everywhere here, and I think we're ahead of the curve, so we're not now reacting, we're anticipating and planning. And that, I think, is going to be part of our solution to a crisis that, we're advocating, but we're certainly not going to solve on our own.
Let me just add a little with Hadley. Thanks for the question. You really hit on something that's of critical importance. I will tell you, though, that Altera formed because we're optimists and we're very positive in the future of skiing, skiing and snowboarding in our mountains. That said, we are also deliberately becoming geographically diverse, because as the climate shifts, we get more volatility in our climate, right? And more ups and downs, a little shorter winters, which we're seeing in a lot of places. And so there's mitigation effects that Wynn talked about, which are essential. So better summer grooming, better maintenance of snow, more efficient use of energy and water supplies that are loaned to the mountain and go back into the river. All of that needs to happen. But we're optimistic that we're going to be able to figure this out, and that skiing is going to be alive and well for a very long time. That's why we're in this business. But it's not going to be easy. I think we've got a big challenge ahead, and we have to fight it on all fronts.
To give you an example, little things that are impacting us. For years, those of you who skied here know that we had overhead power lines that went from our base area up through Castle Rock to the Castle Rock lift, and then up Castle Rock entrance, downspout to Heaven's Gate. Powered Heaven's Gate, Castle Rock, all of our snowmaking on the upper mountain. Overhead lines in this climate in a forest. You are really ready for that to be down at your worst possible time. So this year, in anticipation, we have actually buried those lines for a cool $400,000. So now we have underground lines, improved fiber optics, and that's sort of, again, anticipating how we react to a change in climate to make sure that we're sustainable and operational. Just takes money. Well, look, I really appreciate everybody coming out. Rusty, do you want to say anything in closing?
You know, it really is it's a pleasure to be here talking with you and being on the edge of being part of the community. And I look forward to a visit again. And I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. If you kind of did the calculus on how the company runs, I'm sort of sitting around and watching some real professionals do all the work. So call me. I'm easy to get a hold of at Altera, and tell me what we need to do.
What's your cell number again?
Okay, I'll do this. I didn't want it to look like a hat trick on that, but I'm serious about it.
You're going to live stream your cell phone number?
Yeah. Maybe
Brace
I'll have
yourself.
a social life in Denver finally. If I, So I'm serious about this. For those that want to take the time to do it, and I gave it out to the team today. So my number is 760-914-0333. So let's have a dialogue. And one of our ethics is this idea of being brutally honest and transparent, and hold me to that. But I look forward to a conversation, and I look forward to learning about the community, and I really, Wynn, look forward to teaming up with you and having fun at our advanced age, and we'll show the younger people how to do this.
Absolutely, Rusty. And I look forward to it. As I start off by saying, I really am convinced this is the right decision for all of us. I'm really excited about it personally. I'm still having a ton of fun, and as long as I'm having a ton of fun, you ain't kicking me out quite yet. And with that said, opening day for pass holders is Friday. It may be just what we're used to here. It may be a little rainy, a little funky. We made a ton of snow. We're going to have beginner, intermediate for the first time, I think, ever on opening day. Advanced. Yeah? That's the first time I've seen Tom Carney smile all day long. He sat through the employee meeting, the community forum. He was one of my early instructors, and that made him smile. But it's important, seriously, to get those new people in here early in the season. So opening day for everybody on Saturday. And then hopefully we're going to be skiing right into that first weekend of May again. So excited about the season. Thank you all for coming out, and we'll see you soon.